join me in welcoming General Norman Schwartzkopf.
Please be seated. You all have gotten bigger since the last time I talked to you. I distinctly remember the last time I had an opportunity to address the Corps Cadets. It was November 1967, and I was here as an instructor in the Department of Mechanics, which I understand is still the favorite department of all of the people in well, at least it was then anyhow, all right? But Army had a great football team that year, and they had been invited to go to the Sugar Bowl. But as you recall, in 1967, we also had something going on called the Vietnam War, a deadly, serious battle that the Army was very much involved in. And for reasons, and I think very good reasons, of the fact that the Secretary of the Army, then Secretary Resor, felt that the frivolity of a bowl game was not really in keeping with the fact that soldiers were dying in Vietnam, he decided that the Army team would not go to the bowl game. The week he made that decision, I had been asked to speak in the then mess hall to the rally before the pit game. It was significant that they were having the rally in the mess hall because up until we were going through the renovation, and there was a tremendous amount of construction that was going on in the mess hall at that time, expanding to another wing. And so all the rallies had been moved elsewhere, but this was the one rally of the year that was going to happen in the cadet mess. And I had, of course, been invited to speak. And the afternoon I was getting ready to speak, one of the rabble-rousers came up to me and slipped me a note. And it said, "Major Schwartzkopf, I just wanted you to know that tonight, after your speech, there is going to be a riot in the mess hall. And we are going to tear down all of the new construction. And oh, by the way, last night we stole all the sugar bowls out of the mess hall, and they will never be returned again." And I began to really be delighted with the fact that I was going to be giving this speech before the rally. To further compound my problems, the Commandant of Cadet called me in and said, "What is it you're going to say tonight, Schwartzkopf? And before you say one word, you'd better clearly understand that if there's a riot after your speech, we're blaming you, too. You understand that?" I won't tell you the outcome, but needless to say, before I accepted this invitation, I checked with the Corps to make sure there are no riots scheduled this evening, and I expect to hold you to your promise. One has to ask oneself, what do you say to the leaders of the 21st century? Because that's what you are. You are America's leaders of the 21st century. I'm in the twilight of a mediocre career, and in 3 short months, I'm gone. Because that's the Army way, and that's the right way. Because we can't have the top plugged up and block the upward movement of many, many other outstanding leaders that are out there. So what does an old warhorse in his last 3 months in the Army say to the leaders of the 21st century? I've thought about this a lot. But fundamentally, it turns out that you are no different than I. And therefore, I think that some of the lessons that I have learned in 35 years in the Army are applicable to you who this year or next year or the year after are going to be leading this great Army of ours. And I thought I'd talk about them just a little bit. First of all, let me talk about the environment when we graduated in 1956. There weren't going to be any more wars. We had a President of the United States that was the last great military leader, and he had adopted a military strategy of massive retaliation. Simply stated, we told the world that anyone who dared attack the vital interests of the United States of America would be faced with nuclear destruction. There were many in that day that were espousing that there is absolutely no need for an army. We ought to get rid of it, expand the size of our nuclear weaponry, expand the size of our Air Force, but ground battles will never be fought again. I've been to war 4 times since then. And I've been to war in 4 places that in 1956, no one, absolutely no one, would have ever predicted that we would go to war. I can remember when I was a plebe, there was something going on over in a place called Dien Bien Phu, and I don't really remember very well what it was, because I wasn't interested in that. After all, who cared about a tiny little place way over in Southeast Asia someplace? And when Dien Bien Phu fell, it didn't even impress us. A couple of left-wing, commie, pinko social science instructors tried to get us interested. But of course, we all knew what their politics were, so we didn't pay any attention to them. And certainly, we didn't know where Grenada was. As a matter of fact, when I was told I was going to Grenada, I said, that's great, I've always wanted to go to Spain. And there was a philosophy in the world at that time, and particularly in the United States of America, that the United States of America would never, ever, ever get involved in a major ground war in the Middle East. Never. And that's the environment that we, the class of '56, graduated to. A man with far more eloquence than I will ever have stood outside Washington Hall a few years ago and told the Corps of Cadets that ours is the profession of arms, and told us that our mission would never change. Our mission was to fight our nation's wars. And he also told us that we could not fail in that mission. I would tell you that there were many, many hours during the planning for Desert Storm that those words gave me great strength, because they are basic truth about the United States Military Academy, West Point, and the Long Gray Line. You out here will lead the thunder and lightning of this country in some future conflict. History has proven to all of us that in your careers there will be another war. And you will be the leaders. So what about that? A lot of people are calling the war that we just won a video game wars. A lot of people are talking about the great technology. But they've been talking about that since the day we graduated. In the final analysis, you should never forget that the airplanes don't fly, the tanks don't run, the ships don't sail, the missiles don't fire, unless the sons and daughters of America make them do it.